revitalization, and financial packaging of public and private loan programs to facilitate growth in the small business community. Our first panelist is Joanne Braxton, retired from the U.S. Small Business Administration, Office of Entrepreneurial Development, Office of Government Contracting and Business Development, and the Office of Field Operations after 30 plus years of service. Today, as the CEO of the Braxton Group, LLC, she is a small business advocate that provides consulting services to high-achieving emerging small businesses seeking to conduct business with the federal government. She collaborates with resource partners and technical service providers to develop and deliver training in federal contracting-related curriculums. She has earned an MBA from Central Michigan University and a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, Management, and Operations from Champlain College. Our next panelist is Michael Townsend, a procurement counselor with the Virginia PTAC at the Georgia Mason University. He provides procurement counseling to small and large businesses seeking to establish or grow their footprint in federal government, state and local government, and commercial markets. His clients include newly formed and startup businesses to mature firms seeking new markets, customers, and teaming partners. Mr. Townsend is the former Senior Director of Small Business Development and Utilization at Science Applications International Corporation, an American technology company headquartered in Reston, Virginia. Our final panelist, Natalie Robotham, recently accepted the position of Field Manager with the South Central Planning and Development Commission due to her service as Parish President with the St. John the Baptist Parish government for over 9 years, including membership and board membership with a host of various regional organizations involved in economic development and planning organizations. President Robotham worked with small and disadvantaged businesses and companies to procure services. She also drafted procurement guidelines and trained staff and small business owners on accessing opportunities with parish government and other governmental entities and commercial businesses within the region. And finally, she hosted workshops to pair small and disadvantaged businesses with large established businesses, namely prime contractors. It is an honor and pleasure to have you all here today. Welcome to our fireside chat. All right, well, the first question that I have for our panelists is really based upon the title of our webinar, and that is, what's the difference between federal and municipal contracts or contracting opportunities, and how can small business owners better position their business to compete for them? That's A. And B, are set-asides in federal programs available in state and municipal or state or municipal programs to help small businesses achieve the same goals? Anyone can chime in on that question.
Well, good afternoon. I'll go ahead and start off on that one. Again, it's a pleasure to be here today. The basic difference between these two is regulation. Okay, the federal procurement process is regulated by the government. Okay, there is a set of rules called the FAR, or Federal Acquisition Regulations, that every contractor, subcontractor within the federal government must follow. Whereas in state and local governments, they will have their own particular rules and regulations on how they conduct their procurements, how they go to market and look for contractors. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Anyone else would like to chime in on that?
I'll chime in, Warren. Just to piggyback off of what Michael said, I think, primarily as as was stated, the difference between, federal and municipal is generally in their scope and the level of government that awards those contracts. So as mentioned, federal contracts are awarded by the federal government to provide goods and services to carry out its operation, and the municipal contracts are awarded by local governments to provide goods and services to the local communities.
Okay, yes, thank you both for that. And some of the research that I've found, and I that is appropriate here is that the set-asides. Do you find that the set-asides are also in the municipal government and their procurement opportunities?
I'll go ahead and respond.
I'd like to.
Yeah, go ahead, Natalie. I'm sorry.
Yes. Oftentimes it's necessary for councils to pass ordinances at the local level to include set-asides. Of course, sometimes what's missing is that monitoring component, which is very, very important, because although they may meet in the bids, the idea of the set-aside, they don't always carry that over to the contract and the construction. And it's really important that when municipalities or governments pass ordinances for set-aside, that they also include a monitoring component.
Awesome, thank you. Did you want to add something, Michael?
No, Natalie just hit it right on the mark. Other than the federal government does do set-asides within their socioeconomic categories: small business, small disadvantaged business, women-owned small business, economically disadvantaged women-owned small business, and the veteran, as well as service-disabled veteran-owned socioeconomic class, as well as hub zone. Okay, and a federal hub zone is different from a state and local hub zone. Okay.
All right, thank you very much. The next question is, you all have, well, first of all, you all have different government perspectives and experience, including federal, state, and local levels. What do you look for in a vendor to determine quality assurance?
So I'll go first on this one, Warren. And so, when you talk about quality assurance, it depends on the requirement, and so when evaluating a vendor for quality assurance, there are several factors, I guess, that has been considered in my experience. And so the vendor should have a robust quality management system, some processes in place to be able to monitor and control the quality of the product, identifying and addressing, quality issues, some kind of system in place that addresses continuous improvement. When also considering evaluating a vendor, past performance is always key. Their track record and looking at the history of that particular vendor delivering quality products or services.
Awesome.
I'll add to that. You're also looking to see, are they able to manage what they are going after? Okay, you're looking at the scope of the work. So if you've never managed a $100 million contract and your management has only been in the $10 million to $20 million range, that's a big difference. Okay, big difference. So we're going to look at, what is your management plan? How are you going to manage this? Who's in charge? Who has direct communication with the customer? How are you managing your subcontractors? Okay, and then how are you reporting back to that customer, that agency, whether it's state and local or federal government? How are you doing reporting back to them on what is going on?
Excellent, excellent responses. Thank you very much for that. That is
And,
something.
and
Good.
excuse me.
Yes.
In my case, there's several qualities I'm looking for. Qualifications for the job, their preparedness, their responsiveness, because that's important throughout the project itself. How quickly do they respond, or do they respond? And of course, as mentioned previously, their work history is very important because we're in a smaller area. We're able to check references. We're able to see some work, but that is critical, and that helps me in the value or the need for that business. The other thing we look at, again, I'm at the local level. Are they local? So all things equal, we definitely want to look at our local businesses to do business within our parish with the government.
Yes, that is.
One further thought, Warren, is compliance to make sure that that the business complies with relevant regulations as it relates to the requirements within their industry. And so, if their industry requires some type of designation or specification, then it's important that the vendor complies with the regulations and the standards within their industry.
That's an excellent point. And who essentially does that research? Is that something that is handled obviously before the bid that goes out? But obviously, each department, each agency will do that research to determine those things, right?
Yes, before or as a need is presented and before it goes out, then yes, the acquisition team will ensure that what the requirements are for that particular requirement, what industry specifications may be related to that particular requirement. And so that would be included within the solicitation, of course, but yeah, the government will also do its market research on the requirement, as well as the vendor should also.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your responses. Okay. Now,
and on our end, that's handled through our purchasing and procurement department. We have purchasing agents, but in addition to putting out the solicitation, they're also responsible for evaluating the components that come in with that. And as mentioned previously, the specs are usually listed, whether it's licensure, certification, or insurance requirements. And then our department head and her team actually evaluates that component and request documents if they're not there. And then we put together a team that actually assesses or scores what's submitted.
Excellent. Much for that. All right. Now, generating consistent revenue growth over time is important to achieve. And you just mentioned, President, that the higher the scoring aspect. So so let me just repeat this comment. Generating consistent revenue growth over time is important to achieve higher grades with government contracting sources in a competitive bidding process. What is the simplified acquisition threshold amount, and how important is it to score smaller dollar contracts?
So I'll start off with that. In the federal government, the simplified acquisition threshold is anything $250,000 down to $10,000. Okay, those size of contracts, number one, are not put out on FedBizOps, which is SAM.gov now. So you really have to be in tune with a government agency and ask, how do they do those smaller acquisitions? those smaller acquisitions are important to your growth, especially if you're a newly started company and you're trying to get your feet wet in the government agency. Winning and getting a contract within that simplified acquisition threshold starts building your past performance, starts building your credibility, starts proving that you can do federal government contracting. Okay, it's not always important to jump out there and look for the $1 million contract, the $10 million contract. Start looking for those low-hanging fruit. Okay, you may have a niche capability or you're a consultant that you can come in and grab one of those contracts from them, but you do have to ask about them because they're generally not publicly available.
And I'll add to that also. And so, the simplified acquisition threshold and the simplified acquisition procedures exist to, reduce administrative costs and to improve opportunity for small business, small disadvantaged business. It also can be a strategy of the small business to seek after those opportunities that fall under the simplified acquisition. And so you'll have micro purchases, which have a threshold. Michael mentioned simplified acquisition. The ceiling is $250, say from $10,000 to $250,000, but the micro purchase threshold is $10,000. So there are opportunities for micro purchases as well as simplified acquisition requirements. And so it could very well be a strategy of the business to kind of seek after those opportunities as well, as opposed to, thinking that the higher level contracts are the only way in which to navigate the government marketplace.
Yes, and so I think that you're both basically talking about connections to other businesses, or is it more mainly with the officials of the government sources?
These would be the government sources. Okay, so if you're a small business, your best friend within the government is their small business office. Okay, that's where you start your inquiry. That's where you introduce yourself. That is where you get them to be your advocate. Okay, you start your marketing with that federal agency at their small business office.
Excellent. And it seems as though that what's also important is establishing relationships with other contracting professionals, right? In terms of other industry experts and that type of thing. Is that something that's able to take advantage of, in reference to the simplified acquisition threshold process?
Yeah, I think that goes along with what Michael is speaking to as it relates to developing relationships and networking with the procuring office of the federal or local municipality, kind of networking and getting to know who all makes up the acquisition team, because it's more than just one person in the acquisition team, but, networking and getting to know that team and who's a part of that will help in knowing when opportunities are available and how to go about pursuing them.
Excellent. Thank you all for those responses. And we're going to get to the part where we're going to open it up for the audience to address their questions as well. We see that some are already coming through. And I just want to ask a few more questions to our panelists, and then we'll get right to the questions from our audience. Often in government and federal contracting, we hear of bidding and bonding requirements. What contract categories exist that do not require bonding, and how difficult is it to identify those opportunities?
Well, I'll go ahead and start this one as well. Generally, within the federal government, if you're doing construction, that is where you're looking at bonding. Okay. If you're doing IT support services or you're providing products or things of that nature, you generally do not require bonding. Okay. Now, if you're providing products, the government may ask to see if you have a line of credit or whatever, because you're only going to get paid once you're invoiced. Okay, they're not paying you ahead of time. There may be some insurance regulations that you may have to adhere to as well, but bonding generally comes in place with construction contracts.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael.
I'll follow up on that. Typically, our professional services contracts will not require bonding. And of course, once you establish your guidelines at the local level, it should be very clear which items would require bonding and which would not. Of course, that threshold increases as he indicated, Michael indicated, with construction projects. And that is to protect not only the municipality, the subcontractors, and to make sure that the contract is executed as intended.
Okay.
And just to further chime in, I'll just would like to add, if the solicitation does not specify, if it specifies bonding, then it's required. And of course, if it's not specified, then bonding, is not required. And in my experience, I agree with Michael in that the only time that I've experienced bonding for the contracts that I've managed were construction contracts, construction related contracts. And so, although the FAR does speak to other types of bonding, and I think it's important that businesses are aware of the regulations that governs what they want to do. So at least be aware of how to access it so you can kind of read up for yourself to see what's required. But again, most bonding is required for construction related contracts.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you all three for some valuable information you're sharing. Next question, how do you help businesses prepare a complete technical package and proposal? If small, how do you help their team with another firm for more size before pursuing government contracts?
I'll start on this. I think completing a technical contracting package and proposal can be a very complex process, and so that requires attention to detail, adherence to the specific requirements. So a lot would go into that question, but I think I would help the business kind of outline the critical steps to take. And of course, you would begin with to read the request for the proposal carefully in all of it, because therein lies the specific instructions. And so, you have to understand the technical requirements from the beginning to the end, and you have to envision that so that you can conclude all of those potential contingencies within your proposal. And so, I think it's critical to assess and understand and know whether or not you can meet the requirement. And so, first I would, help to identify what the first initial critical steps are, and that would be to make sure that you read the RFP in its entirety, have a full understanding of what the technical requirements are, and then even identify the team members, who, if particularly if you are a smaller business and it's just you, who are you going to bring into this equation to help you meet this requirements? Identify who those are, and then kind of put together an outline.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, I was going to follow up with that. Transparency in government is very important. And in our cases, we published on our website, all of our RFQs, RFPs, our bids, our contracts, and our closeout documents. So if you're just beginning to work with government, these are examples that you can go back and look at successful bidders, or they're all online, but you can compare yours to what was successful and learn from that. So that's one of the things we recommend, in addition to offering trainings and trying to encourage our small businesses to become preferred vendors by completing the vendor registration in advance and having it on file with our purchasing office, which indicates they're certified, they're licensed, and they're insured.
So I want to add to that, and I'm going to put in a shameless plug for PTACs. Okay. If you don't know what our mission is to support you with one-on-one counseling, training to get you ready for federal and state and local government. Part of the training we provide is how to respond to an RFP, how to respond to a proposal, how to respond to an RFQ. Okay. If you've never done this, okay, you go pick up a government proposal or a state and local proposal. If you've never done this, it can be daunting. Okay. If you've looked at a government proposal, you don't read it from front cover to back cover. There's certain sections you want to pull out and start reading first to get the understanding of what the government is asking for. In the state and local ones that I've also seen, it's pretty similar. You want to go in and see that statement of work, and secondly, how are they going to score you? Because that's how you're going to gear your response. You want to score the highest you can. So if you're not familiar with your PTAC, you need to find out each state, and some states have more than one, have a local PTAC. Google your state PTAC. We're also called Apex Accelerators now. We've been taken over by the Department of Defense, so you may hear the term Apex Accelerators. Okay, they're one and the same, but that PTAC is where you need to go to get that training, to get the assistance, and get the support in helping you in all matters of federal government and state and local government contracting.
Yeah, kudos to PTACs. They are an excellent and very valuable resource. So yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think I recently learned that, there's really no cost for PTAC in terms of the services that they provide. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. FREE, free. You can't beat it. Okay, you can't beat it. And the depth and quality of what you're going to get from PTAC. I know with the Virginia PTAC, we have 12 to 15 counselors. We are all from industry. So we have the background. We know this stuff. Okay. So we can help you. And if there's an area where I may not be an expert, or I may not or know the subject matter as well, I can always reach back to one of my fellow counselors, and they can come in and help you and get you through this hurdle. But PTACs are a great resource. And if I get an opportunity, I can share a quick slide to show you where you can find your local PTAC as well.
Okay, awesome. Well, I think we can do that right at the end of this session, right before we go into questions from the audience.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. And how do businesses? Well, I think you basically answered that question. How do businesses find you? But also, which databases should they be registered with the government? And I think you mentioned that, Michael, with government buyers and contracting officers to find them.
Great question. For the federal government, if you're going to do anything in this federal government, you need to be registered in SAM.gov. Okay. You may also, as a small business, want to have a profile in the SBA database as well. It's called DSBS. Okay. Again, these are areas where your PTAC can help you with your profile if you haven't established one. If you don't know what it is, reach out to your local PTAC and they can help you with that. But if you're working within the federal government, you need to be in SAM. That profile tells them who you are, what you do. It even has your banking information so that they can pay you. Okay, so it's very important that you're in that profile, in the SAM.gov database.
All right, excellent response. I see that we're having a lot of questions that are coming in, so I think I want to move to that session right now. Let's see,
Warren, can I just add something
yes,
quickly?
please.
With regard to local municipalities, I think it's important that you register with the website with the purchasing department because they send out alerts on opportunities to work with government.
Mm-hmm.
The other entity, which is statewide, is Central Bidding, centralbidding.com, where all the jobs that are out, not just in one place, but throughout the state are listed. So having someone that monitors those sites regularly is very important. So it's not to miss any opportunity that your company may be qualified to perform.
Oh, excellent response. And I want to give Joanne, I'd like to give you, if you have something else that you wanted to chime in regarding this or anything else that before we go into the questions from the audience.
Yeah, thank you. And so, yeah, I agree with what has been said. But in terms of my contact information, you know, I've just recently retired from the Small Business Administration. And so I'll put my contact information in the chat. And I'm also on LinkedIn. So, yeah, I have a wealth of expertise on the side of the government. And I'm now, you know, navigating into the area of being on the other side, the entrepreneur sphere of it all. So, but yes, I welcome the opportunity to assist in any way that I can, because I am a small business advocate, eager to help and have a passion for this area of federal contracting.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joanne. Okay, so let's go into first of all, I just want to say thank you to our gracious panelists for sharing their wisdom with us. If you missed the welcome at the beginning of today's webinar, we indicated that any questions we did not get a chance to answer, we will make sure to get those answered. So we invite you to give us your feedback on today's session. Just scan the QR code that you see on the screen to access that information to complete that. So let's see. Now we'd like to open the floor to address your live questions. And so let's see what the first question that came in. Let's see, Denise said, how do a new company get chosen for a contract? And let's see, Michael, would you like to chime in on that?
Well, I can, yes. It's the bid and proposal process. Okay, you have to know that there is a request for a quote or a request for a proposal out there. Okay, you have to qualify yourself for it. Okay, because you just don't want to bid something because it sounds right. You need to be qualified for this. Okay, all right, and then bid. Okay, that is how you get chosen for a new contract.
And make sure that you're registered with the appropriate government procurement system. Make sure you're in the database that is required for minimum eligibility.
Correct.
Awesome. Thank you both for that. Let's see. Also, Denise asks, can you tell us what government agencies should we contact in regards to those contracts? 50,000 or less. And I think what she's referring to is the when we mentioned I think it was the 250,000 to 10,000 to the 10,000 the simplified acquisition threshold amount. So our question is, can you tell us what government agencies should we contact in regards to those contracts?
Go ahead, Joanne. I'll let you.
Yeah, so I think that a good approach, because the micro and simplified acquisition requirements are not advertised in the same way that other competitive requirements are. And so, and there's no one centralized repository, unfortunately, where one can go and get all things related to the federal government anyway. And so, but you can go to the individual, and it requires effort, but you can go to the individual agency's website, whether that's local or federal, and query that to find out. I mean, acquisition.gov is a resource. Also, what used to be Federal Procurement Data System, which is now within the new SAM environment, provides past history on contracts that have been awarded. And so you could potentially query that to find, based on value, and find past contracts and identify agencies that way. But it requires you to kind of know what your product and service is, what your wheelhouse is, and then kind of go to agencies that website and agencies that you want to work with and see if they buy or procure what you sell.
Excellent.
It's not an easy answer. It's not an easy answer.
Right.
And
It's not, as Joanne said, they're not posted. So this is where you start building, where relationships, and start building those relationships come in with those agencies, so that you learn who can you go in and ask about their simplified acquisition or their micro purchase opportunities. Where do they post them? Okay. She asks which agencies. It's probably all agencies. You just have to build that relationship with them, starting with the small business office, and start your inquiries there.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Let's see. So we've answered the question of the website to go to, and we mentioned SAMS, right? Is it SAMS.gov?
Correct.
Okay. And let's see. We have another question: is what is the best way to subcontract on people who win the bids?
I'd like to address that quickly. Part of the concern we have with that is when larger companies submit their bid, they've already gotten subcontractors. So it's critical that before bids are submitted, that you find a partner, pair up, hopefully at a pre-construction meeting, because the numbers that are submitted in a bid are based on who their subs are. It's frequently too late after the bid's award to attempt to subcontract. So establishing those relationships on the front end is very important. Not to say that they won't ever, but typically when a bid is submitted, it already includes their subcontractors' pricing and names. So it's a little late then. All that needs to take place prior to submission of a bid.
And so again, that's why I would add that it's important to kind of do some homework based on past awards, because past contracts can help you identify agencies, it can help you identify prime contractors, and then that gives you an opportunity, not for the current requirement per se, but as a strategy and as planning how to navigate this space, then you can begin to identify which agencies and which prime contractors are potential partners for you. And so there is an SBA, a subcontracting data website. I don't have it at the moment, but I think if you query SBA subcontracting,
it's called Subnet.
Subnet, yes, Subnet, and Department of Defense also has prime contractors pages for subcontracting opportunities. So, Michael, you may want to expand on that.
Right. So, all of this, what you've heard Natalie and Joanne state, is about building relationships, and you need to build it ahead of time. Okay. I counsel my clients on starting organically. Start with people you know, companies that you know, companies that you may have worked next to if you're just starting your business or whatever. Start with them. Start marketing them. Let them know you're out there. You're ready to. You've started your own business. Okay. Then the next step is to get out and start attending networking events. Okay. Start looking for especially your target agencies, the agencies that you want to work with. Go up on their website and find out if they're having any small business events, if they're having any industry days. Same with state and local government. Natalie spoke about how they do the industry days for construction and things. That's where you need to be. You need to be at those events. Okay, and network. Start establishing those relationships. Okay. Yes, I come from a large business background. You know, if you contacted us after we won something, it's too late. Okay, we built our team. We built our team to go win that contract. It's too late to get in. Okay, and the larger the contracts, we start building teams sometimes years ahead of a contract. Okay, so you've got to be out there. You've got to build those relationships and start looking. Large businesses, especially in the federal government contract, go to their website. Okay, they generally have an office for small business development, or they have an SBLO, a small business liaison officer. Find out who that is. Start marketing them just like you would do a federal government. Start building those relationships with them.
Excellent. Let's see. And then we have a question that's come in. I don't know who the person is referring to in terms of the panelists, but he said, hi, what is your experience working with foreign Canadian contractors or subcontractors on major projects, mostly in construction or infrastructure projects? Do any of you have that type of experience?
I don't particularly have that type of experience, but to answer his question in general, can a foreign-owned company subcontract on federal government work? Yes. Okay. There are qualifications, I believe, that you would have to go through and things of that nature, but yes. Can they? Yes. Okay. I don't have any direct experience with it, but you can.
Okay, and we just have a question that came in. This person said, I'm still very new and learning and a small business, but is there a space for event planners and corporate event planners or corporate event planners? Is there a space for, I guess what they're asking is, are there opportunities for event planners or corporate event planners to get access to contracting opportunities?
I would say yes, at least at the federal level. The federal government procures all products and services, and I know event planning companies that have been approved into the 8A program. And so, yes, that's a service that the federal government procures. And it's also a service that has many probably extensions associated with it. So, yeah, I think, yes, there's opportunity for that industry.
Excellent, excellent. All right, I don't see any other questions in the Q&A, but I did want to sort of ask a general question, and we touched on it a little bit in terms of how do we get to prime? I guess it's a good question. Often there are many opportunities for those that are more mature companies that are looking to, make that transition from subcontracting, but they're hungry for the prime opportunities. So, can you respond to that? How do subcontractor companies that are prevalent in that space, how do they get to prime?
So what I like to tell people is that, if you're in this market, state and local market, or whether you're in the federal government market, this is not a sprint. Okay, you need to understand that this is a process. Okay, so you have to work the process. The things you've heard us talk about today, the most important thing, if you haven't picked up on it yet, is that you have to have a process and you have to be consistent. You've got to put it all together and you've got to work it and work it consistently. Okay, to get to that. As a small business, you will know when you are ready to prime. Okay, you've built your past performance. Okay, you have been a subcontractor. You understand federal regulations. You know that you're ready to move, and then you want to look for that next contract to go out and start priming. You probably won't win your first prime contract, but you learn how to write that proposal. Okay, you learn how to do the marketing as a prime. You learn how to build a team because you may need teammates with you to go after that contract. So it's the full process. Okay, there's no magic pill. Okay, there's no tree out there that you can shake that's going to shake out a contract for you. You have got to go through the process with this.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'll just add, even with the small business certifications, a lot of times businesses kind of have the opinion that once they get certified, and that's like, some guaranteed path forward to a contract. That process that Michael just kind of described still exists even once you get certified. But I would also add that potentially you can build prime opportunities through micro purchases, those purchases that are small in nature, that have minimum competitors. That is a potential path to building past performance and being awarded a contract.
You called it, did you say micro purchases?
Yeah, micro purchases, yes.
Micro purchases, okay, yeah.
And I'd like to add to what both panelists have said, and that is to build. Okay, starting with where you are in your company. If you're not in a position to cash flow large projects, then I wouldn't step out on that just yet. But there are smaller, whether at the state or local level or at federal government, smaller contracts that, again, make your submittals, participate in the scoring, see where your strengths and weaknesses are, and make improvements. The other thing that I recommend, and I don't think every municipality does it, but we did. Everything's online. So you go to successful bidders and see the types of submittals that they provide. You can also look at the pricing to see, is your pricing in line with what it should be? What type of pricing wins these awards? And to help you better put together a plan and a submittal that is worthy of being selected. The other thing is to go to large pre-construction meetings where there's going to be primes, and many of them are looking for good subcontractors. Now, as a public governmental entity, we couldn't force a prime to take a sub, but we could pair you up and give you the opportunity to engage and network and provide your card. In the event there's another bid or project that you might want to work on with a prime. But I think that experience working with a prime and have enough experience. You know, you can't do it one time and think, oh, I'm ready to do my own. Give yourself the opportunity to learn from working with a successful prime before stepping out. Because if you step out too soon and fail, then that's going to be part of your work history. So it's very important that you build gradually and you know, in a very simplistic way. Try not to bite off more than you can chew. Just, you know, work your way up, making sure your finances are stable, that projects that you submit proposals on that you're able to do, you're able to cash flow, and you're able to perform. And by doing so, you're going to continue to add to your portfolio, continue to grow your company, and again, partnering with successful primes, not just any primes, those that have been successful, who follow the guidelines, who have Davis-Bacon in line for federal contracts, and they meet the requirements and they're paid, because many of these contracts are reimbursable. And you have to work with a prime that can, one, cash flow you, be able to pay you while waiting to get their payment. That's very important. And I think a lot of our small businesses get caught up in attempting to bid or submit proposals on projects, but can't afford to wait these federal government processes to be paid. And that can harm your business.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. And I think we have one final question from the audience, and this is in connection to what we were talking about. I think what Joanne was talking about in terms of micro purchasing. The question is micro purchasing typically products, or is it services as well?
I think the majority of them are products, but there may be some services. It would be whatever the need may be that falls under $10,000. And usually the agency can acquire that using a credit card. And so it's both, it's products and services.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, well, I think that I think we did an excellent job in addressing not only the questions that we had, but also the audience questions as well.
Warren, if I can share my screen, I just want to show folks how to find their PTAC. Let me see if I have the ability here to share my screen real quickly.
We did put into the chat the site to locate local PTACs.
Okay.
Is that what you were referring to?
Right. The URL to find your local PTAC is www.aptac-us, aptac-us.org. Okay, aptac.org. That is our governing organization. And if you go there, you will be able to, there's right in the corner there, you select your state and it will identify who your PTAC is and provide you with the contact information for your PTAC.
Okay, great. Let's see. Yes, well, okay, so would you like to show that screen, show it on the screen, or?
Yeah, I can. Let me see if I can share this real quickly.
Great.
And share. Hopefully you're seeing that on your screen now.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, we do.
Okay. All right, and there you see right there where you can go in and find your PTAC, select your state, find your PTAC now, and you do want to register to get the support from your local PTAC.
Fantastic. All right, well, thank you so much. We're going to proceed to the next step. And so let's see. So we've already shared about the QR code for the survey. Now we would like to just say thank you for attending government versus municipal contracts. What's the difference and how to qualify? This was possible through our work with the SBA Community Navigator Program, funded in part through a grant with the U.S. Small Business Administration. I want to say a tremendous thank you to our guest speakers, Joanne Braxton, CEO of the Braxton Group, LLC, Michael Townsend, a procurement counselor with the Virginia PTAC at George Mason University, and Natalie Robotham, former parish president with the St. John the Baptist Parish Government. Your responses and your answers were excellent, and we thank you very much. And I'd like to thank the Community Navigator Chambers for adding for Black businesses, and to you, our viewers, for sharing in this discussion. USBC introduced by Black the only Black certification program with a business directory, providing businesses that certify access to private and public procurement opportunities, highlights, and other benefits. This online program can help prepare you for the contracting space as a documents preparation guide. Certify today by visiting usblackchambers.org/certification. Join us for the last event of the month of March, event that's called Working Toward Work-Life Balance, a mental health conversation. Thursday, March 30th, 2023 at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. For more events like these, or this one, regularly visit and certify for upcoming events at usblackchambers.org/webinars. Follow us on social media at usblackchambers.org. And if today's forum prompted additional questions and interests, feel free to contact us at programs@usblackchambers.org. Thank you for joining us today.